the Bucks, the Brewers, and more with you.
And now inside the Koss Headphone Studios,
this is Wickett on Wisconsin with me, Mike Wickett.
So that is how you get a win right there. That's it. 42-21. Thank you so much for hanging out. Going to be here for just a little bit. An instant reaction to the Green Bay Packers beatdown of the Detroit Lions. 42-21 the final, and honestly, it wasn't that close. Like this was again, much like last week when they beat Minnesota, one of those games in the second half where you couldn't have been worried. Like this game was in complete control, and it really felt that way the second Aaron Jones took off 75 yards for the touchdown to start out the second half. So to me, that was a ball game that the Green Bay Packers had in hand in the second half. It's exactly what you wanted to see. I want to know what you thought of it. Give me your comments on Facebook and on Twitter. I will definitely be reading those during the podcast here. And then if you miss any of this or you want to go back and check it out, we'll have it up available on the podcast. I'm going to give you a stat real quick here. I saw this one at the end of the game. In the last couple of games, the first two of this season, your Green Bay Packers in the second year under Matt LaFleur, which is the most important thing, by the way, that, you know, you can talk about acquisitions and draft picks and everything, but I think we're starting to see, and I'll admit, it's not, you know, San Francisco, and we'll talk about San Francisco. It's not, you know, Seattle. These aren't the big boys. It's Minnesota and Detroit, but it is two division opponents, one at home and one on the road in this weird COVID season. But Green Bay's offense has looked great for the last two games. For the first two of this season, they have scored 85 points. They have 1,000 or over 1,000 total yards. I don't know what the exact number is because when they put this stat up on TV and I took a screenshot of it, I was like, that number's going to go up. They have over 1,000 yards of offense, and they've got 9 total touchdowns. That's amazing. That is flat out amazing for the Green Bay Packers. And they beat down the Detroit Lions today 42-21 in an effort. Now, okay, here are the similarities, all right? Here's the similarities, I think, between last week and this week. My Twitter account, and I don't know if you were one of these people, but I'm watching people on Twitter as Detroit is marching down the field, and they did march down the field. And they were able to move down the field in that first drive, and Stafford hit Hawkinson, and Stafford hit Jones, and they were running the ball with Kerryon Johnson's, for some reason, was able to churn up yards, and they were moving down the field. And everybody was talking about the defense and saying, oh, great, here we go again, just like last week. And now the Packers defense hasn't looked good on opening drives yet. And I don't know if that's a Mike Pettin thing. I don't know if that's an intensity thing. I don't know what it is. But so far, the Green Bay Packers have not looked good on opening drives yet. At least on defense. On offense, well, but let's just talk about the defense here for a second. When Detroit was able to march down the field, just like Minnesota, who was able to march down the field on that opening drive, both games, it does kind of make you wonder what is going on in team meetings up until the point of kickoff. Like, what are they game planning for? What is the focal point of this team going to be? Now, they didn't have Kenny Clark in this game. They had him for most of week one against the Minnesota Vikings. They didn't have Kenny Clark in the middle, and everybody knew they didn't have Kenny Clark in the middle, and everybody knew that without Kenny Clark in the middle, the Packers defense was going to be susceptible. And just like what Minnesota did a week ago when they saw Kenny Clark out and they ran Dalvin Cook and Madison up the gut and it was effective, you knew Detroit was going to take advantage of that. And Green Bay really wasn't ready for that when it started. They made some adjustments. You know, Zadarius Smith moved over. A lot of guys got banged up in this game and in the NFL. Some serious injuries in the National Football League. But as soon as the Packers made their adjustments after the second or the third drive, and guys started plugging up the middle, and Matt Stafford went back to being Matt Stafford, a.k.a. making boneheaded throws, and the Lions remembered that they're the Detroit Lions, that's when the game all of a sudden flipped. And it was, boom, points, points, points. Rodgers, Jones, everybody making plays. Devontae Adams, hell, even MVS made plays today. But it all started on defense. Because there was a part of me that thought, Well, without Clark, are they going to be able to slow down Swift and AP and Kerryon Johnson? It's not a great three-headed monster, but it's a three-headed monster. Like, it's not, we're not talking about the big three here, but it's an effective, multifaceted three-man running back core that the Lions can bring to the table. And really, it should be effective all season long. All three guys bring a little bit different skill set, obviously. But when the Packers made their adjustments, all of a sudden, the idea of a shootout that I had back here in the back of my head, the idea of a shootout went out the window. Because then it was Green Bay is better at this than Detroit, and they have athletes in that secondary that can make plays, even if there are going to be some breakdowns in the middle, and there obviously were. We'll run through some statistics coming up in just a bit here for you, but it was still the Green Bay Packers doing what they do best with the better coaching staff, with the better talent, with the better schemes, with the better decision makers. And then once things started to turn, because at one point it was 14-3 Detroit, and my Twitter timeline, some of you people, and your Facebook posts, holy balls, some of you people were giving up on this team and fire Mike Pettin and this is garbage, and why didn't they draft such and such? And calm down. Chill out, all right? This is a weird season, and we're seeing games are just so different than we've ever seen before, and it's a real chess match. And then when things did flip, and then when things did wind up, hello to everybody jumping in. Oh, goodness gracious, what's up to Brooke and what's going on? Joe? Man, I haven't talked to Joe McAuliffe in years. My goodness. My wife wants to know if I'm still going to require my daughter Britton to wear her Aaron Rodgers jersey. Hey, the Packers are 2-0, and my daughter Britton, who is 19 months, when she wears her Aaron Rodgers jersey, Packers are 2-0. So that thing's going to be worn every Sunday. Or in next week's case, again, they play, is it a Monday nighter? No, they play Sunday against the Saints next week. What's up to Mike, who says the second half defense was greater than the first half defense by a mile? Absolutely. I think some of that had to do, Mike, with the fact that the Packers had scored so many possessions in a row, especially after the long Aaron Jones touchdown, that they knew Detroit wasn't going to be able to run the ball. So all of a sudden, it was pin your ears back. Rashawn Gary made some plays. Guys in the secondary. My boy Shandon Sullivan, my guy Sully Showtime, was making plays, had the big pick six. That guy once wished me a congratulations on having twins. That's my boy, Shandon Sullivan, Showtime, they call him. But there were definitely guys making plays because they knew that Detroit was not going to be running the ball nearly as much as they were, and they were doing it very, very well in the first half. And then when Green Bay started rolling, and then their offense started going, and it was all about Aaron and Aaron. I mean, the Aaron and Aaron show was just on fire, absolutely on fire in this one. I'm going to get you some stats here. I'm just trying to adjust something real quick. Let's hit this button right here. There we go. Let me get statistics because I love reading Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones statistics. The Green Bay Packers ran for a ton of yards in this ball game. They ran for more yards than they have rushed for since any game since 2003. Yeah, 2003. 259 rushing yards. Would have been 260, but Tanner Boyle took the 1 yard for the knee. 259 rushing yards for the Green Bay Packers, the most since 2003. Aaron Jones, my guy Aaron Jones. I screamed all year. If you want to go back and check my old podcast, you can. If you want to go back and listen to some old tape, you can. I said Aaron Jones needs 22 touches. He didn't even need that, but he was still great. Guess how many he got today? 22 touches. 18 carries for 168 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, 4 catches for 68 yards and a score. It is his, I'm stealing this statistic from ESPN's Rob Domofsky. Aaron Jones had 3, count them, 3, 1, 2, 3, uno, dos, tres. He had 3 touchdowns today. His third 3-touchdown game since the start of last season. That's the most by anybody in the National Football League. Even Christian McCaffrey, even Saquon Barkley, that's the most by anybody in the NFL. So, I mean, if you aren't a believer in Aaron Jones, I'm not 100% sure what it's going to take. The dude was fantastic. Devontae Adams probably didn't help your fantasy football team too much today. He only caught 3 balls for 36 yards, had his ankle tweaked early. He was in for the middle part of the game. They didn't need him late, so he didn't play, especially when you're up a couple of scores on Detroit. you got nothing really to worry about. But Devontae Adams, 3 for 36, wasn't really he was not nearly the factor he was last week against Minnesota when he caught 14 passes. Aaron Jones, again, 4 catches, 3 for Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He had a big one on the sideline, too. He also took a shot to the head. Glad to see that nothing came of that, or at least nothing has come of that as of yet. Alan Lazard had 3 catches. Robert Tonyan had a touchdown. And you said they didn't have a tight end. Who says the Packers don't have a tight end? You got to be kidding me. And how about Aaron Rodgers? He wasn't perfect. He wasn't the Aaron Rodgers we saw in week 1, where he was just laser focused. 18 of 30, 240 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. But when your ground game is churning out yardage, like the Green Bay Packers were this game, it didn't really matter. Jones, again, 168. Jamal Williams had 8 carries for 63 yards. I mean, those 2 guys, there's your 1-2 combo from last year, back at it again. I know there was a lot of talk about A.J. Dillon, but the Green Bay Packers didn't need A.J. Dillon today. They got it done on the ground against Detroit. Now, Detroit gave up a ton of points in the fourth quarter to the Chicago Bears last week. You thought maybe Green Bay was going to be able to do the exact same thing, and it wasn't that way early. Midway through, they actually were able to, flip the switch, turn it on, and blow the doors off the Detroit Lions. Packers are now 2-0 on the year, and as of right now, knock on wood, they are relatively healthy. The injuries in the National Football League in the first half of games today, brutal. Absolutely brutal. From Bosa in San Francisco to Barkley in New York to Drew Lock, the quarterback in Denver. I mean, it's craziness how many impact key big-time players. Raheem Mostert got hurt for the San Francisco 49ers. He led off the game today with an 80-yard touchdown run, got hurt later, and is done. We don't know how long he's going to be out. So many guys got banged up in the National Football League, ruining so many fantasy football teams. This is one of those weeks where it's going to be just attrition. Who can survive and finish out for your fantasy football team? But the Packers stayed relatively healthy, minus Corey Linsley got banged in the head. And other than that, I'm trying to think, and if I missed something, let me know on the Facebook page or on Twitter, because that's all I got in my head right now is that I can think of. Let's see. Mike says Aaron Jones is an early favorite for the NFC Offensive Player of the Week. I can't deny that. I mean, again, he had 168 and 68. So what is that? 220, 234, 234 total yards and 3 scores. I'd say you're probably right about that. I'd say that's probably a pretty good call, unless Russell Wilson goes bonkers or somebody else does something wild. Drew Brees, even without Michael Thomas against Oakland on Monday night. I'd say it's a pretty safe bet, though. That's probably a pretty good one. And on the other side, by the way, for your Detroit Lions, I know I got some Lions fans that are watching. Hello, Kelly, who's watching in Detroit. Let's see here. Matt Stafford, man. As a guy who owns Matt Stafford on a fantasy team, I was really hoping for a classic Matt Stafford garbage touchdown. I was really, really hoping for one of those. Didn't get it. Stafford, 20 of 33, 244, 2 touchdowns. The stat line wouldn't be all that bad if he didn't have – that's a decent stat line. It wouldn't be all that bad if he didn't throw that pick 6 inside the 10-yard line to my guy Shandon Sullivan. Ground game, 89 total yards on the ground, 41 for AP, 32 for Kerryon Johnson. DeAndre Swift had 12. TJ Hawkinson, 62 receiving yards, 50 for DeAndre Swift. Quintez Cephas, the Wisconsin Badger, had 54. They really miss Kenny Golladay, but what they really do miss in Detroit is the ability to play defense. I mean, the amount of yards, passing yards specifically, that they gave up to Mitchell Trubisky a week ago, and then to come back and give this kind of effort against Aaron Jones on the ground and Aaron Rodgers through the air, that's pretty abysmal, especially when your head coach is supposedly, and I mean supposedly, a defensive mastermind like Matt Patricia, right? You know what I'm saying? I know there are Detroit fans that are watching that don't want to hear that, but it's the truth. It is the absolute truth. And back to something I said really early on in the video, and I do think this is something that is worth further discussion maybe later on in the week as we get out of this win, celebrate, rewatch, bathe, drink some Miller Lights, or whatever it is you're going to do on a Sunday, is how much more comfortable Aaron Rodgers and this offense look. There's not a ton of new pieces. I mean, let's be honest. There's not a ton of new pieces added to this Green Bay Packers offense. They had Devin Funchess in the fold. He opted out because of COVID-19. They didn't acquire a big-name tight end. They drafted DeGuara. He was not active in this game. He was banged up with a couple of things. I think a shoulder and a knee or an ankle or whatever. They didn't add a ton of, big-time pieces. But it just goes to show that what we as fans, we want is new coach, pick up where you left off. Let's go. I want more points. I want more yards. I want touchdowns, and I want it to be flawless. When an NFL offense, especially one as complicated as Matt LaFleur's, when that comes in, when you're trying to install that, that's when you see how long these things can actually take. Like these complicated offenses of Kyle Shanahan and Matt LaFleur, they take time because there's so much that's done on the ground, and then you combine it with the brilliance of Aaron Rodgers. Like it's taking all this offense, all this philosophy, all this brain power, and melding it together. And it took a year, and it finally starts to look really, really good. Now, again, before you jump on me and say, Wickett, it's the Lions, or Wickett, it's the Lions and the Vikings, you are 100% right. It is the Lions and the Vikings. It gets a little more interesting, doesn't it, next week against the New Orleans Saints? Do they have New Orleans next week? Should I just keep saying that? Is it New Orleans? Yeah, it is New Orleans next week. I don't know why I question that. Yeah, it's New Orleans next week, and then on Monday night, it's the Falcons. By the way, that Falcons-Packers game, that was supposed to be 2 days after Badgers and Notre Dame at Lambeau. Like, that was going to be the dream weekend in Wisconsin. You would have had Wisconsin and Notre Dame, and then the Packers on Monday night against the Falcons at Lambeau. Like, that would have been it. Hotel rooms would have been $8,000 a night up in Green Bay. But we don't get that. Instead, next week we get Sunday Night Football. We don't know if Michael Thomas is going to play, but now that's a real challenge for this team. New Orleans plays really good defense. You saw what they did to Tom Brady a week ago. They were able to nullify the old man and those weapons that he has on offense, but they don't have Michael Thomas, so it'll be interesting to see what Mike Pettin and company do. They don't fare very well against dynamic stud running backs like Alvin Kamara, but this should be a fun one. And I think because the Packers are 2-0, and what are the Saints doing right now as I'm recording this? I'm just going to hit this button here. They play Monday night, so we won't know. Duh. My bad. That's going to be billed as a great offensive matchup. I'm really interested to see how the defenses attack each other. How do the Saints attack Aaron Rodgers? What will they have for Aaron Jones? And what is Matt LaFleur going to do against that Saints defense? Like, I think this is going to be a fascinating matchup. And what you're watching is Aaron Rodgers and a lot of this offense, because he still wears that armband, a lot of this offense is survey and look at me. And there are, like, when they go into a formation, I was reading a great piece. I think it was by Jim Owczarski. If you haven't read it, I've got it on my podcast page, and if you find him on Twitter or whatever. But I remember reading it, and they're talking about how even in a simple one alignment, when they come out of the huddle and into a formation, there are 15 plays they can run out of that one formation, where it's just a receiver going here, or just a receiver turning here, or a receiver going an extra 3 steps. Everything changes. They have so many variations. It's such a complex system. And to see the Packers run it, to see Aaron Rodgers run it, is absolutely beautiful. Because in this system, whether it's Matt LaFleur's or it's Kyle Shanahan's or it's anybody from Mike Shanahan's tree, there's never been a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers running this offense that has that amount of quarterback ability. Jimmy Garoppolo's not that guy. Matt Ryan's not that guy, all right, when he was in Atlanta, when Kyle Shanahan was in Atlanta. Aaron Rodgers is better than all those guys. Right now, at his age, Aaron Rodgers is still better than all those guys. And to see him run this offense, and the innovation and the formations and all the variations, that's a lot of Asians. It's so cool to be able to watch as a Packer fan. Kyle says, what a great win. Kyle from Green Bay. It was a great win, Kyle. There was a moment, I think, when Packer Nation was a little bit worried. When Packers fans, when everybody in every cheesehead in Wisconsin was getting a little bit worried. I can sense it because you're all complaining on Twitter and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. But the Packers do get the win. Great balanced attack. Over 1,000 yards, over 80 points, double-digit touchdowns in the first 2 weeks of the season. It's pretty damn good. Up next, the New Orleans Saints. I will have another podcast for you later on this week. A reminder, please tell a friend about Wickett on Wisconsin. We are on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on Google Podcasts. If you want to go back and listen to an old episode, I would appreciate it. Also, if you can hit that subscribe button when you do listen to a podcast, I would love for that. And also give me a rating. It helps me to track and improve the program if you could do that. So thank you very much. That is a final from Lambeau Field in front of dozens. 42-21, the Packers over the Detroit Lions. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Wickett on Wisconsin. My name is Mike Wickett. As always, go Pack Go, go Bucks, and go Brewers. And until next week, I wish you nothing but a great rest of your weekend.
Thanks for listening to Wickett on Wisconsin. If you have any feedback or you want to reach out to the show, you can find me on Facebook, Mike Wickett Podcasts, or you can email MikeWickettPodcasts@gmail.com.
And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter @Mike Wickett.
Thanks to Silverman Sound Studios for providing the music for today's show. And you can find us anywhere you find your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Until next week, thanks for listening to